Welcome to Drinking Bros, presented by GhostBed.com.
What is up? Welcome back to Tomahawk'd. I am your host, Rob Fox, joined as always by Dan Holloway, and we watched a little baseball this afternoon.
Yeah.
There was one team playing.
Well, one team was playing and one team wasn't, I guess.
We were talking about this off air while the game was going on, but like, man, that was just getting like wasteful and brutal. Like wasteful. So the Braves today, they beat the Pirates 14-2, I think.
Yep.
At some point, and it was the 8th inning when they like really ripped the game open. Like 7-0, that's a big lead, but you can any major league team could come back from that on a given day.
I mean, if you're willing to call Pittsburgh a major league team, I suppose. I don't know if that's accurate, to be honest.
That's fucking fair. But, I mean, once it got to like 13, 14-0, I mean, Matt Olson absolutely obliterated a ball for a grand slam with no outs in the 8th.
Yeah.
God damn. Like, we were just like going back and forth, just like how we feel bad for Pittsburgh, who is easily the shittiest team in the National League over the course of the last 41 years, 41 years.
Yes, 100% since '92.
Certainly since '92. So they won the World Series in '79. They made the NLCS in '91 and '92. Since then, they made one wild card play-in game that they lost, and that's it.
Yeah. Like in the National League, especially in the National League East, every team in the National League East has won a World Series since 2000, except for the Mets. They won in '86, but they were in the World Series in '99, and they were in
the World Series in 2015 as well.
In 2015, yeah, they've had multiple trips there. They just didn't accomplish anything. And then you look in the Central, aside, like the Brewers routinely make the playoffs. The Cardinals have 2 chips. The Cubs won. The Reds, they've had some pretty competitive teams.
So the Reds beat the Pirates in that playing game. The Reds made the playoffs in the COVID year, played Atlanta. And then the Reds were in the 95 NLCS against the Braves as well. Yep. They don't exactly have a storied recent history, but for what it's worth, the Reds also, it's a long time ago at this point, but they won the World Series in 1990.
Yeah.
So like, they've got one in living memory, kind of. I mean, so 79 is living memory too, but like really, like they've got one, I guess, what you could call maybe like modern era championship.
Yeah. And then the West, the Dodgers have won recently. The Giants have won multiple times recently. The Diamondbacks won in 2001, and they've had some pretty good playoff teams in the middle 2010s. Rockies have been to a World Series. I don't think the Padres ever have.
They went to the '98 World Series.
One of a World Series.
No, they've never won a World Series.
But they've been, even now, like they've had some issues this year, but that is a very competitive team that's bent on winning.
Yeah,
like
they're building
spending
towards
money,
the future.
For sure.
That you could basically, and the Padres routinely make the playoffs. They don't advance far usually.
Correct, yeah.
But like they're always building like a winning team. And you can name, back through history, like in the 90s, like Tony Gwynn, and they had Kevin Brown on that 98 team. They signed him after he won with the Marlins in 97. In the 2000s, they had like early 2000s, they had like Jake Peavy.
And Hoffman that whole time.
Yep, Trevor Hoffman was there the whole time. And then, for what it's worth, it wasn't a good, like they did it badly, but do you remember in like 2013 when they tried to just like build an entire team off of free agency and trades? Like they traded, that's how the Braves got Max Fried, is the Padres traded with us for like Upton and Kimbrel and a bunch of people, and that didn't work, but then they fell to shit and drafted well, and now they're back to a place where they're moving in a good direction. Still kind of a little bit of a clown show over there in terms of like Tatis with his PEDs and stuff like that. But I mean, like trading for Juan Soto is not a fucking joke. Like that's a team that means business.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I mean, I don't know what the I suppose wealth differences are between Pittsburgh and San Diego. I'm sure there's a gap there. But a lot of that gets absorbed by all the bullshit in California as well. So it's hard to tell what the actual, you know, like how much these people are actually able to spend on recreation is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And there's quite a bit more competition for recreation in San Diego than there is in Pittsburgh for recreation, right? Because it's
100%.
like, especially in the summer, it's just baseball. There's nothing else going on there.
Baseball and whatever you can jam French fries
Yeah.
into.
And the Pittsburgh is like, what, 2.6 million?
2.8.
2.8.
And by the way, San Diego is 3.2.
Yeah, it's like not that big a difference, man.
No.
And a lot less competition. So I don't buy the excuse that I hear a lot of people and the business make about Pittsburgh being a small market, because there's other commensurate teams with a lot more competition for eyeballs there that are doing quite a bit better, and it's because they've brought in ownership groups or whatever that are committed to winning fucking baseball games, which is the point of all this, by the way.
And if you really want to just prove that Pittsburgh's owners don't give a fuck about winning, it's that, like, you know, they can whine and bitch all they want about where they play or whatever, their city, blah, blah, blah. The fucking Royals have a World Series in the last 10 years. The Kansas City Royals. No, you don't get to pull the Pittsburgh card when that's fucking true.
I think Kansas City is, what's their metro? 1.5, I think. I think it's relatively small.
It is 2.3. It's smaller than Pittsburgh.
Yeah, so it's like, not really an excuse, is it? I mean, I think there's got to be, and we've dealt with this relatively recently. I think it was 2015 or 2016 when the Marlins, the Pirates, the A's, and a couple of other teams got caught taking the revenue share from the luxury tax and just pocketing that money.
Yeah.
Or using it for infrastructure development, but not on players. They never use it on players.
Right.
Like, come on, man. What the fuck is going on here? If the era in professional sports where you can be like what Donald Sterling did with the Clippers back in the day before he got, you know, ushered out of there. But the Clippers went to the playoffs like 3 times in 10 years, which is not good for a basketball team.
No. Because
there's a lot more people in the playoffs in the NBA than there is in any other sport. But they made it to the playoffs, didn't do anything over that period of time, but they were the only team in the NBA during that recession period for the NBA that actually made money, right?
Yeah.
Because of what they did the same thing that Tampa Bay does, which is grind the fuck out of people and get them out, never pay them, right? You could do that back then. Now it's just like you can't fucking do this stuff anymore. Not with the way that all the leagues have these salary caps or luxury taxes that you know, put money back into a pool that's supposed to be used for player acquisition and development. It's a bad business model. Pittsburgh needs to be sold to somebody else.
Yeah.
It's really just that simple. And the same for Oakland, by the way. Like Oakland and Pittsburgh, those teams need to change ownership. The Angels are about to change ownership, it looks like.
I forgot to put that in the rundown. We can talk about it in a minute because I want to get into that as a whole separate thing.
Yeah.
But, like, one thing really quick with these – and you know what? I'll say this about the Angels really quick. Say what you want about Artie Moreno, but, I mean, he brought over Shohei Ohtani, signed Mike Trout to basically a lifetime deal. Like, that's not – brought over Anthony Rendon. They seem more just, like, cursed than –
Yeah, maybe.
But with Pittsburgh, or any of these owners, by the way, what's insane is that clearly the best business model is to have a competitive team.
To win, yeah.
That makes you way more fucking money than whatever penny-pinching, short-sighted, like, let's just get into the black shit that these guys are doing.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Like, look at how flush the Braves are because of the last 5 years.
Yeah.
And obviously the last year in particular. I mean, now it's like they have a fucking blank check to do anything they want. And Pittsburgh, by the way, they're not like Oakland even, where they're shoved into some crappy stadium deal. Like, they have a relatively new everyone considers it one of the best stadiums in baseball. I don't know if they have shit around it, but that wouldn't be hard to do, I assume, for them to build like a ballpark village type of situation around it. Texas Live, the Battery in Atlanta. So it's the type of thing with the Pirates where it's like losing is a choice for them.
Well, I mean, they're choosing between a couple of options. One of them is to invest in players for the team, and the other one is to, like, just make money on being a professional sports organization, or maybe not lose money. But you know, the idea that spending money on the team for that year or for like a 3 to 5 year period and you don't necessarily see results, that's a bad investment. Well, if it is, then every restaurant ever developed was a bad investment because it takes about that long to become profitable, right?
Right.
And in this case, there's different versions of profitability. One is actually, you know, being a winning club, but the other one is like all the revenue that comes along with that. You can be profitable without winning if you have a storied franchise, and I guess the Pirates were hanging on to that for a while, but that's just not the case anymore, man.
They have flushed that down the toilet.
Like if you're Notre Dame, you can do that into perpetuity.
Right.
But if you're a professional baseball team that routinely trots out a AAA team onto your field, it's just not going to work, man.
The only one I can think of that's ever pulled it off is the Cubs.
But the Cubs are the Cubs, man. They were one of the first teams.
So were the Pirates. The Pirates are an original team. Here's the difference, though, is that the Cubs had sort of a, you know, Ole Miss is this way in college football where no people are going to show up to that school in particular to support the team because the culture around it, the tailgating and stuff is so great and legendary that they'll come no matter what. And with the Cubs, it was the same way, right? The game was often an afterthought where, you know, you just go there to get drunk or whatever. Because say what you want about the Red Sox, and people kind of unfairly compared the Red Sox to the Cubs for their whole curses that they had going at the same time. The Red Sox won. They made World Series. They had shitty luck in the playoffs or in the World Series. The Cubs were just incompetently run, never made anything. They wasted Ernie Banks' entire career, right? Like Ted Williams played in World Series.
Yeah, but they still hung on to the fucking brand, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know what you really call it. But yeah, it's just Pittsburgh can't do that. And they got outscored, I think 22-4 in this series, something like that. Man, it's
just gross.
It's not enough.
It's just, I like Pittsburgh too. Like I like their uniforms.
Yeah.
Obviously the stadium's great. It is literally a top 5 sports town in America because it's the perfect combination of storied franchises and there ain't a lot else to do there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So everyone really invests all of their civic pride. Like all of the New York teams could suck ass for the next 100 years, and New York would not be short on civic reputation, civic pride, or whatever. But Pittsburgh, obviously, a different case. It's a bummer to see that. And yeah, watching this game today, I mean, you were just like, God, just end it.
Yeah, it was brutal, honestly, to watch.
Yeah, like just please stop it. So with that win, the Atlanta Braves somehow, I think we talked about this a week or two ago. I know I've been on this show saying I think the NL East is out of the picture. I think, you know, we're going to make the playoffs. It would be almost impossible to not make the playoffs. But I thought the NL East was out of the picture because we lost a ton of those 9 games we played against the Mets in that like week and a half stretch or whatever. Yet here we are after today's win, some fucking how only a game and a half out of first place again. Since June 1st, the Atlanta Braves are playing at a 116 win pace.
Yeah. I mean, it's this is one of the best runs I've ever seen, to be honest. I feel like it's just the fucking relentlessness of the 1 through 9 batting order and having legit 5 starters on a team. Like, I don't know if it just doesn't, you don't see it very much. You don't see that particular combination really ever in baseball where like, so you'll see teams that have like a great, like the fucking, the Indians in 95. That offense was ridiculous from top to fucking bottom. Pitching was just okay. I mean, they had a couple guys that were doing
Oral
well.
Hershiser was their number 1.
Yeah.
Dennis Martinez was on the team.
Yeah, he was their number 2 or 3. It's like those are good pitchers, but those aren't like that's not a great rotation. And the Braves had a great rotation, and they were able to beat them with a so-so offense.
Right.
But the Braves now have like even more so. Like the Dodgers had flashes of this when Taylor was performing really well and Turner was still turning in good at bats and shit, and Bellinger was at his MVP season in 2019. That Dodgers team had what this Braves team had, which is top to bottom. I would say their offense was probably a little bit better with more tough outs.
They're better at bats
in the middle, and especially like from 5 to 7. That part of the lineup they were just tough at bats there, but just having all these weapons all at the same time, it's pretty interesting to see what the Braves are capable of doing when they actually, when all of it works all at the same time. It's fucking scary.
I mean, this Braves team is not. They're still not at 100%.
No.
Like, there's no Mike Soroka there yet, and Ozzy Albies is out.
And honestly, Acuna is just okay right now.
Yeah,
You know
he's
what I
not
mean?
being Ronald Acuna Jr.
Like, August has been pretty good. He's definitely seeing the ball better now, but that's a new development. Like, he got off to kind of a quick start, but it was a lot of his mistakes in there were hidden. And they got exposed over the next 2 months, June and July especially. I think he hit like 280 in June, but in July he hit 220. You know what I mean? Which is not very Ronald Acuna-esque.
And the power numbers aren't there.
That they weren't, no. And now in August, right, power numbers still aren't there in the way we're used to, but he's hitting 320, 404 on base percentage. Like, you can tell he's seeing the ball better now. It's just a matter of making those adjustments. But to your point, anyways, it's just now. He's just now catching back up to speed, and we still have two major parts of the team out. And over the course of this last 2 months, are performing as well as any team has ever performed, right? So,
well, literally, I think isn't 116 the record. What's weird about this team to me, and I was thinking about it today, and this could be more a product of my age, right, and where I am mentally as a human being. But like with those '90s Braves teams, with Maddox, Glavine, Smoltz, Chipper, all them, it was like to me it was like, yes, of course they're dominant. This is what they should be. I almost feel like watching these guys, I'm still kind of like, how is this happening? Like, this doesn't feel right. Like, it's like it feels a little bit like a trick is being played.
Why do you say that?
I don't know if it's because, again, like, I'm not a kid. Like, I was a kid watching those 90s teams, and there was a certain, like, sort of stoicism about them, and you kind of knew, even in the middle of the run, you knew that there were at least 3 Hall of Famers on the team.
Right.
Whereas this team, it's just so young that you still don't know if it's anything other than just, like, a nice collection of guys.
Right.
And so that might be part. But, I mean, you knew that there were, I mean, how many MVPs and Cy Youngs are on this current roster? Because Freddie's gone, so there's no
0.
Yeah. On those 90s Braves teams, I mean, you had...
Well, by 96, when Smoltz won his, there were 3.
3 Cy Young winners.
Least, right.
And then,
MVP, I don't think
Chipper won 99. So.
Yeah, it wasn't until 99, but yeah. But he was always capable. 95 forward, he was definitely capable. So it's like, it's interesting. It's interesting. I mean, I look at this team and see the right pieces.
Well, and that's something that you didn't have. Well, you always had it on the 90s Braves teams, which is 1 through 5 in the rotation. There's never a free day, right?
Yeah, I mean, 5 could get dicey sometimes in certain years, but for the most part, they had at least somebody who on another team would probably be a 2 or 3.
Right. And even their 4. I mean, I remember the second we talked about this too, that if everything had shaken out their way, if they'd gotten the more breaks, they probably should have three-peated from 95 to 97. And in that, like, 96, 97, 98 range, I think, something like that, like, their number 4 starter was Denny Nagel, who was putting up, like, ERAs under 3 and shit. So, like, it wasn't even just that you had, like, 1 through 5 was solid, which is, I think, more accurate of what the Braves currently trot out in their rotation. Like, Fried can be a Cy Young winner, for sure.
Sure, yeah.
Strider's insane, but he's still a rookie.
Right.
Wright seems to fit the bill, but again, he's basically a rookie, isn't he?
I don't know how many innings he had last year, but yeah, he's
close.
If he's not a rookie, he's definitely. I mean, for effectively, yes, he is.
Yeah, and then you've got Morton, who's a well-traveled veteran, and right now, Odorizzi. When Soroka gets back, that'll be another Cy Young capable guy. Strider and Wright could be that type, but certainly there's only 2 I would feel comfortable saying right now have Cy Young ceiling, and that's Soroka and Fried. But the fucking lineup in the 90s, you never had this. There were always easy outs. Lemke, Blauser.
Nixon.
Yeah. I mean, at least Nixon was fast, I guess. But
but it wasn't like, so he's the leadoff hitter. Yeah, he plays good center field and he's fast, but his career on base percentage was .343. That's not exactly great.
No.
that's kind of mediocre for a leadoff guy.
The Braves were basically 2 through 5 or 6, excellent, and then in the back half, that was the back half of those '90s teams when so really the 2000s at this point, when the rotation started to deteriorate a little bit. The lineup did get deeper. You know, you would go like for Call, Giles, Chipper, Andrew. Trying to think of other dudes on those teams, but it was a deep lineup, a deeper lineup. But this lineup, and we've said it many times before, there's higher highs in the lineup on other teams, certainly better hitters, but like I don't know who touches this 1 through 9.
Well, it definitely isn't. So in the one World Series the Braves did win in the 90s, Mark Lemke was their number 2 hitter.
Yeah.
Like that's fucked. And Rafael Belliard was their number 8 hitter. Who
he switched in and out with Blauser.
But for the 95 World Series, I don't think Blauser played, did he?
He did.
Wasn't he injured or some shit?
Belliard came in a lot as a defensive sub.
They never had a catcher who could hit at any point.
The 90s Braves?
Until
they had Javi
until
Lopez.
Javi Lopez came about, right?
Yeah. He won. He was on the 95 World Series.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah. But he was always kind of, I felt like their lineup was always kind of limited because Maddox refused to pitch to him.
Yeah.
Even in the World Series, in Game 1 of the 95 World Series, fucking Charlie O'Brien was the starting catcher.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like the middle of that lineup, Chipper Jones, Fred McGriff, David Justice, and even Ryan Klesko and Javi Lopez at the time. That's good.
Yeah.
Right? That's 4 or 5
and then
legit dudes.
I think the other one I forgot was Marquise Grissom.
Yeah, he was their leadoff hitter for that one, yeah.
He's fine.
Yeah. He's above average hitter, yeah.
For sure.
For sure. But it wasn't like it was nothing like Acuna and Swanson, Riley, Olsen, theoretically Albies, and then, fucking Darno or Contreras, and then Grissom, and then fucking
Harris.
Michael Harris the second. Man, it's like not even close to that.
That's obscene. Like it just doesn't. It's fucked up. And that's.
But it didn't, in this scenario, because of how A's put the team together, it didn't come at the expense of the rotation. As a matter of fact, making longer-term commitments to these guys have actually made the rotation better.
Right.
And will continue to make it better as well, right, over time, and give them more flexibility for plug-and-play players as well as relief pitchers. So I expect a lot out of these guys, and I think they do too, which is really interesting because you don't see them panic in stressful situations very much. But it's very clear that they expect to win all of these games.
Oh, yeah.
Good for them. This next series, though, is going to be pretty interesting to me.
Real quick before we get into that,
Yeah.
This is one stat that I found crazy. They only have to go 22-14 over the rest of the season to win 100 games. Did you see 100 wins out of this team at the beginning of the season?
No. Well, I mean, I didn't. It would have been hard to say, right? Because I didn't know when Acuna would be back or Soroka would be back, although that hasn't been a factor. But we definitely didn't see Harris, Grissom. Well, I did, but
yeah.
Like I didn't expect Grissom. I expected Harris and Strider to be like legit contributors this year, but I did not expect Grissom to even be in the major leagues until I thought he was going to get his cup of coffee next year, and then
Right.
24 he would be a starter. But fuck, man, he's way out of schedule. So no, of course not.
It's been a wild season, and of course, this could end up being a situation like last year's NL West. We could win 100 games, legitimately win 100 games, and still not win the division.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, the Mets are going into. We'll get to this later too, but they're playing. Their September is fucking pretty easy. So
yeah, their September is our June. We will get into it. So, but coming up in this next series, the Cardinals are coming to Atlanta, and I think this is going to be a really, really fascinating series because the Cardinals are red hot. The Braves have Strider going against Quintana on Friday. Jose Quintana was a deadline pickup from the Pirates. Saturday is Charlie Morton versus Jordan Montgomery, who is a deadline pickup from the Yankees. And then Sunday is, unfortunately, Odorizzi versus Wainwright. Odorizzi has not pitched well for us. Wainwright has still been a very good pitcher for the Cardinals this year. I think this is going to be a fascinating really as indicative as any regular season series could be of the playoffs, which is to say not necessarily a lot.
Yeah.
But the Braves need to win all these games, and the Cardinals aren't necessarily out of the woods yet either. So
Right.
they're going to need to compete. Both teams are going to need to compete. And B, what's fascinating about this in particular is even though right now the Braves are lined up against the Phillies in the bracket, typically when you're in the playoffs, you're playing very good teams that you're not super familiar with. Now,
Right.
everyone is going to be pretty familiar with each other just because film is so good and all that stuff, scouting so good. But still, when you're actually standing across the diamond from them, standing mound to plate, whatever, it's just not someone you're used to looking at, not the type, you're just not used to seeing them play in person. And that's the way the playoffs typically go. You're not playing against your divisional foes typically. And so I think there's going to be that sort of unfamiliarity factor that the playoffs have as well, which I'm going to find interesting. So you'll have the stakes. You'll have two teams. The Cardinals are 9-1 over the last 10. The Braves are, I believe, still 8-2, even with the win today over their last 10. What do you expect to see out of this series? I mean, I think it's going to be a fascinating matchup. The standings, Cardinals they're 5.5 up on the Brewers, who are just falling the fuck apart.
Yeah. Well, let's start with game one. That's well, I guess this is airing tomorrow, so that's today.
No, it's Friday.
Oh, it is Friday?
We have an off day tomorrow.
Oh, good. Good for us. Yeah, so that'll be Friday. That'll be tomorrow. I like this matchup, Strider v. Quintana. Quintana has not pitched well against the Braves historically. Got lit up by them earlier this year. Also got lit up in his last start a little bit. And the Braves in general hit really fucking well against left-handed pitching. I mean, top to bottom, including their left-handed batters, although only one of them typically stays in the lineup for that, or two of them. But and the Cardinals are going to be seeing Spencer Strider for the first time, or the second time, yeah. So, which means you're going to get to see how he works his pitch development. In his last start, he was throwing changeups in the first inning, right?
Yeah.
Because, the changeup is a pretty good out pitch early on, but easier to track and get the bat on if you're later in the game. So I think the second, third time through the order is when he started using a slider more.
Yeah.
Probably smart. Definitely. That's definitely him learning how to pitch, right? Even if it's just whatever, he's just throwing whatever fucking Travis or Willie puts down. It's like, all right, cool, man. Like, that's pretty fucking smart. That's why Ian Anderson's in AAA right now, because he couldn't figure it out.
Yeah.
He couldn't figure out another pitch to throw in the second, third times through the order. So a guy that throws 98 to 100 doing that now, it's kind of difficult to pin him down. I think that's a really good matchup for us in the first game.
Is this the best lineup he'll have faced for the second time this year?
Let's see. He's went against the Phillies twice, so I think the Phillies might have a better lineup. It depends on who was there when he faced them, though. This was at the end of July and beginning of August. They were still missing Harper, so maybe not them. Yeah, that's probably the best.
So let's see, who's Strider faced twice? Oh man, what the fuck all this shit? So he pitched against Houston, but that's obviously only once. The Mets. That's not. I mean, the Mets are a great team, obviously, but
not offensively. The
Right.
Phillies are the best. I think the Phillies probably the best lineup he's faced twice.
So this will be. I kind of think this might end up being the best lineup that he faces more than once. He struck the Cardinals out 12 times last time.
Well, it's funny. He pitched. He went up against the Phillies on July 26th and struck out 6, 1 run, got the win. Pitched against the Phillies again 6 days later and struck out 13.
Yeah.
Like the second time he saw them, he fucked them up way worse than the first time. So it'll be interesting to see if that remains consistent, because you remember the first game against the Mets, granted it was on the road, but didn't look too great. The second game against the Mets, he shut their ass down the entire game. So, I
was actually wrong. This series is in St. Louis. We already played them in Atlanta. I had that backwards.
Yeah, but either way, like every team he's pitched twice against so far, and look, it's a limited amount. I guess. When I say pitched against, I mean started against. I didn't look back when he was still relieving, but he's gotten better against the team that he pitches against the second time. So that's really interesting. But this is quite a bit better lineup, I think, certainly better than the Mets, depending on what personnel they had on the field, because I think Segura missed some time as well, and he's a big part of their, he's one of their more difficult outs over there. This will be good. This will be really interesting. It's like good to challenge these guys this young, because if you can go like when the playoffs start and Spencer Strider, who's a rookie, has beaten the Houston Astros, the New York Mets, the Philadelphia Phillies, and the St. Louis Cardinals, provided he wins this game. He also went 6 scoreless innings against the Dodgers.
Yep.
Like, he's pitched against some really fucking good teams and not had a whole lot of trouble with it. Like, the times he's had trouble were just kind of random, didn't have command that day things. But dudes aren't tracking his pitches very well.
His worst games were relief. Let's see. Yeah.
Like at the Nationals.
Giants, at the Nationals, and then the Mets did touch him up pretty decently in that one game in early August. But yeah, his other two, he's had 2 bad starts. Oh, he kind of had a shitty start against Arizona as well, at Arizona. Bit of a pitcher's park, but these are random bad starts. You're right. It's essentially up to Spencer whether or not he it's. I mean, like, based on those results, it's more or less. The team doesn't matter. Like, it's up to how Spencer's going to do today. I will say, with that Mets loss he had, they were getting some luck. They were getting some soft hit ball luck.
Yeah, and he had something to say about that too.
He did. But, for what it's worth, they were doing a good job being patient. He was going deep into a lot of counts.
Yeah.
And, the Mets were making him throw strikes. And, the more pitches you see, the better off you are as a hitter. So, they made their own. They were lucky, but they kind of made their own luck.
Yeah, for sure.
So credit there, but I don't think the other teams did that at all.
No, and it's what's really interesting is when he comes back against a team the second time, even if he did have success against them the first time, he does better.
Yeah.
Which is, usually more exposure to a pitcher is in favor of the batters, not the pitcher. But it seems to be the reverse for him. And maybe it's a coincidence. We'll see on Friday for that. The next game is another left-handed pitcher, Montgomery for St. Louis, which, could be a benefit to us, although he's been pretty fucking sharp this year, right? I wouldn't throw him in a category of, like, just random left-handed pitchers.
Look, I know you said Quintana didn't do that well, I think, his last start-up, but both Quintana and Montgomery have been very good since coming to the Cardinals. They've been exactly what they needed on the back half of that. The reason they're burying the Brewers right now is because they didn't have a back half of the rotation, and now they've got 2, 3, or 4s in the 3 and 4 slots.
Yeah.
So they're pretty good to go at this point.
We'll see how Montgomery does. I don't think the Braves have ever seen him before. Maybe some of the guys that have played in
I'm sure Olsen's seen him.
In the American League have seen him, but I don't know that I guess he did pitch against them once last year. And Albies, Riley, Swanson, Contreras have all seen him, and that's it. But that's an advantage for him, especially a guy that's, been sharp this year. And then it's Morton, right? I mean, like, games 2 and 3, you're going to see 2 of the best curveball pitchers in the history of baseball.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's like those 2 guys, Carlton, Burt Blyleven. There's a couple of dudes on the list that have these incredible curveballs that have, like, long careers because of them. But there's maybe, like, fucking 6 or 10 of those dudes. You know what I mean? They're just being able to control that pitch so well over time. Morton's definitely one of them. I don't know what he's done against the Cardinals historically. I'm sure they've seen him plenty, though.
Oh, yeah. They've seen him a ton. Well, I mean, he played for Pittsburgh for a while, and he's just been in the league forever. 3 out of Morton's last 4 starts, though, have been fantastic, and 4 out of his last 5, for that matter. Pitched 6 strong against the Angels, got smacked around by the Phillies, but still gave us 5 at least, and then came back and pitched 6.2 against the Phillies, no runs, 8 strikeouts. And then what is this? 6 innings, 7 strikeouts against the Red Sox. We let up 5 runs. And then he dominated the Mets last time out. Fucking 12 strikeouts, 6.2 innings. And then came out against his old team, Houston, 6 innings pitched, 2 earned runs, 11 strikeouts. And he was that game, the Mets game and the Astros game. That is as sharp as I've ever seen his curveball.
Yeah. Yeah, he just had, I mean, the release point was there.
Yeah.
He's throwing, and, you know, I used to get, when he's not sharp, it's super frustrating because you see him throw that fastball to left-handers especially that's over in the right-hand batter's box. It's like 12 to 15 inches off the plate. You're like, man, that wasn't even fucking close. But it's exactly where the curveball begins, right?
Yeah.
So if you throw that pitch out there at 95 to 97, and then you throw a curveball that starts in the same trajectory and then fucking darts in right over the black, tough pitch to hit, right, for anybody. And he's when he's on, he's got it. That's the pitch that he's got. He controls that curveball. This will be a really interesting game, right? I think I'm really curious to see if he can fucking. It seems like he's been getting better as the season has gone on, which you wouldn't expect out of a 38-year-old necessarily,
Right?
Or maybe you would. I don't really know. I would expect it out of a 38-year-old sinker ball pitcher, but not out of a fastball curveball guy. But whatever it is, he's doing it pretty well lately. This is going to be, I think this is actually the best pitching or the best matchup of the series here. It may not go that way. I just think this is the one that's the most interesting to me to see how these two guys perform.
Yeah. I will say that one feels like it's obviously the middle game, but it feels like the rubber game because I just don't love anything about the third game. Let me see. Yeah, okay, so Saturday's a night game. The Braves obviously murdered the Pirates today, but that's the Pirates. Pretty bad in day games this season.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have our worst pitcher going in game 3 against arguably the Cardinals' best pitcher. Maybe Miles Mikolas has been better. But, you know, I think game 1 is advantage Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
I think game 2 is a lot more even because Montgomery's been good this year. And Morton, while he's been good lately, has still – I don't necessarily think you could file him under, like, consistent yet.
No.
So if we get good Charlie, then obviously I think that's advantage Braves. But we still have to get good Charlie. And then game 3, I mean, I'm not excited to see Odorizzi face Arenado and Goldschmidt.
No, that seems like we're going to see a couple of hung sliders go 5,000 feet, you know? And for his part, you know, I think it's really important for the Braves to get deep into the bullpen before this game.
Yes.
To work that bullpen. I think in game 1, actually, St. Louis is probably going to have to use 3 or 4 guys, which is nice. But you got to put the pressure on that rubber game too, and not give them a break. Just go deep into counts because Wainwright's been going pretty deep into games recently, but with low pitch counts. You can get him out in the 5th or 6th if you are patient. And, you know, that's not the Braves' strong suit, I guess. You know, they seem to have him at like 105 pitches. That's when he's going to come out, all things being equal, provided he's not getting blown up.
Yeah.
And you got to get him there as quickly as possible. Now, the last 3 games, it's been 9, 7, and 6, respectively. But there's some 4s in there. There's some 5s. You know, as a matter of fact, most of July, he was out, you know, before the 7th inning. So that to me, when you're talking about winning series and strategizing long term, even if, you know, the rubber game's not going your way, you still got to press and get into that bullpen.
Yeah.
Like you have to burn arms. And I think that's something that if there's any weakness the Braves have, it's that working counts and making contact and stuff like that.
Well, and we did an excellent job of that in the 2 series prior against the Mets and to a lesser extent the Astros, but especially that Mets series.
It does seem like that's been a priority. I don't know if it could be coincidence, right?
Yeah.
Who knows? Whatever, but it does seem like they've been prioritizing that stuff.
Yeah, I mean we've done a great job of lately of getting into bullpens, and the Cardinals have a good, I guess, winning portion of their bullpen, right? but their middle of the bullpen's
It's rough.
it's a weakness, yeah. And that's another reason to want to get the fuck in there. Yeah, but game 3, Wainwright, that's going to be a little bit of a problem. One thing that's going to be interesting, not necessarily from a win or loss, so it could be from a win or loss stretch, but more just historically. So 3 right-handers going for the Braves, which means we probably don't see Pujols starting.
Right, but we're going to see him against Minter, Matzik, Dylan Lee, whatever lefty comes out of the bullpen.
Likely to see him pinch hitting.
100%.
We should have kept Will Smith just to help Pujols get to fucking
I know, right?
which we'll talk about more about that in a second. So the Braves had that big series come up. The Mets, meanwhile, are going, actually, I believe Colorado's coming to them. The Mets are entering. We talked about this a couple months ago. What we say, we said the Braves need to have a good June to get back into the race, to set things right, because that was our weakest month out of the year. That happened fucking big time, and they really haven't cooled off much since that June. The Mets, now they get their June. Now they get their squishy part of the schedule, and it's in September, which is, I guess, kind of nice for them. They have 3 teams over 500 that they play in September, technically. The Dodgers, they catch at the beginning of September, though 2 of those games are in August. And then the Braves, they catch at the end of the September, although 2 of those games are in October. And then they catch the Brewers, who are falling the fuck apart in the middle. That is it. The rest of the schedule is absolute dog shit. They need to be on fire this month.
I mean, this next series, I feel like the Mets have been on a bit of a slide mentally. After losing 3 or 4 to the Braves, I think that dinged them a lot more than the Braves losing 3 or 4 to them.
It didn't. I thought that was going to maybe not affect the Braves when they got beat up pretty bad in that 9-game stretch.
Yeah.
But they obviously came right back since they're still a game and a half out. But yeah, the Mets, they did take 3 out of 4 from the Phillies, including a really frustrating comeback win.
Yeah, that was a pain in the ass. But the Yankees lit them up.
Yep.
I mean, honestly, I watched those games, and I didn't at any point think that the fucking Mets were going to win. Just like the body language was different.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm reading too much into it because that's what I want to have happen. But, you know, this first series with the Rockies, I think this is a big one for the Mets, even though it is kind of squishy. The Mets are not that bad. Like, they've not done well against the East for some reason.
Yeah.
But they're 27-30 in the West, which is the most competitive division so far, right? I mean, you're 27-30. You're only 3 games under 500 in a division with the best team in baseball, who you have to play on a fucking regular basis, and who is torching the West, 35-12 against the West. The Dodgers are.
Yeah.
So it's like the Rockies aren't as shitty as they appear to be.
I will say this: I watched a couple of their games against St. Louis actually a week ago.
They got crushed by St. Louis.
St. Louis obliterated them.
They murdered them. But we'll see on that. I think this is the kind of series for a team like the Mets that can change the season.
Well, it is the type of thing.
It's a trap.
We've talked about this before too, where it's like there's almost an undue amount of pressure to win these games. Like it's almost less relaxing in some ways because it's like, oh my God, like we have to win these games, right? Like we can feel okay about splitting a 4-game series with the Phillies or the Braves or something, but like, and certainly someone like the Dodgers, who's not even in your division, but the Rockies, like they suck. Like you need to, they should feel pressure to win 3 out of 4.
Yeah. Yeah, and even to be honest, if the Mets split this series 2-2, that's a win for us.
Yes, yeah. If the Mets do not outright win this series, that is a win for the Braves.
Yeah, but I could see them losing 3 of these 4 games. To be honest, the good news is I believe they'll for sure have DeGrom in one of them. I don't know if Scherzer comes back up. I think he might be the last game. Hang on a sec.
Did he pitch against the Yankees? Because
he pitched the first game against the Yankees, yeah.
So then he would probably pitch in the Rockies series.
Yeah, I think so. Let's see.
They have an off day today as well, so.
God damn it. I can't fucking read.
So if it was Scherzer, then I don't know.
Yeah, it'll be, I don't know who the other Mets pitchers will be, but it'll be DeGrom, then Bassett, then Blank, then Scherzer. I don't.
Taiwan Walker.
Could be, yeah. But the middle part between DeGrom and Scherzer,
yeah,
those are your opportunities right there. Honestly, in New York and not in Colorado, DeGrom probably goes 7 or 8, if not 9, and shuts these guys out.
Yeah.
If there's an under on the score for tonight's Mets game or tomorrow's Mets game, I would probably take it.
Yeah, they don't give that guy a lot of run support. And then, they catch the Dodgers for 3 after that. Again, it's at New York, which, nice for the Mets, advantage for the Mets, whatever. That does mean, though, that the Dodgers will miss Scherzer.
Yeah, they're going to see
get DeGrom.
Walker, DeGrom, and Bassett in that series. So, Gosselin, Haney, and Anderson going against them, I would say definitely advantage DeGrom in any matchup, but the other two are advantage LA.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no really non-advantage against DeGrom.
Yeah.
Then after that, it gets real soft. And even with the Brewers, the only reason I mention them, obviously they were 500. They will be playing for their lives probably. And, Burns and who's the other guy?
Woodruff.
Yeah, Burns and Woodruff. If
they're still they can go out and win you a game by themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
100%. We'll see how that all shakes out. I mean, it's, as a Braves fan, I certainly monitor what's going on with the Mets, but I'm not too concerned about it, frankly. It would be nice to win the division, certainly have home field, although the Braves in the playoffs have not really needed home field to win.
Probably helped in that Dodgers series.
Yeah.
Where we had a sort of bullshit home field advantage.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
They were a wild card team, 106-win wild card team.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, you want to be able to control your own destiny. The Braves just need to go out and win series. They need to win 2 out of 3 and 3 out of 4.
Yep.
In these series. It's really just that simple.
And the bigger thing for me is I don't know how the bye will affect a team, but I guess I'd still rather be able to set up my rotation exactly how I wanted it. And again, in a 3-game series, who knows? It doesn't matter. Anyone can fuck anyone up. The Braves, meanwhile, over that stretch, not the hardest schedule, but they do have to play 3 at San Francisco, which has always kind of been tricky for Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
And then 3 at Seattle is brutal because A, the Mariners are good, and B, that is the most travel you can literally do in the major leagues.
Yeah.
And then they also catch 6 against the Phillies, who will have Bryce Harper back.
That'll be a 3 and 3, I would imagine, right? Home and away.
Yeah, it's 1 in each park.
Okay. Yeah, we'll see. We've done pretty well against the Phillies this year. With Harper earlier in the season, I don't remember how those went, but lately handled them pretty well. I'm not terribly concerned about the Phillies, although it does just pile on, right? If you're at the end of these hard-ass fucking road trips, that does pile on.
Yeah. Where do you see Atlanta at the end of September? What do you think is realistic? Now, the end of September, not quite the end of September, we'll say before the last Mets series, which is the last day of September.
I think they'll be in the lead, to be honest. I expect the Mets to do Mets shit. Honestly, I really do. I expect them to collapse always. And that's I didn't just make this up. It's been happening for a very long time.
Yeah.
With them. They're not quite as bad as the Knicks as an organization, but they're pretty fucking close. They've done so much dumb shit over the years. Now they've made plenty of good moves this year, but
they're getting more or less a career year out of Francisco Lindor.
Yeah, at the moment. And it doesn't look, even if that continues though, some of the other guys, I don't expect that fat dude to carry over this run into
Vogelbach?
Yeah, into the fucking playoffs. It's just there are giant holes in his swing. And you've seen those more and more get exploited here lately. He has a really hard time. I mean, when Morton pitched against him, he couldn't he had no idea where that curveball was going.
Right.
He looked like a child up there. Remember especially the high fastball that Morton threw him in the last at bat where they faced each other. He flailed at it nobody should be doing that in Major League Baseball. So I don't know. It's just I really don't trust that offense to be able to score them runs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And win games. I don't see it for them. So I think they're gonna lose some games that they should definitely win. And I think we're not, because this team is pretty locked in.
They haven't had a bad month this year at any point. I'm not sure they've been below 500 in any single month.
You talking about the Mets?
Yeah.
Yeah.
June was that lined up. I think June might have been their worst month, and that lined up with our best month. Let me look at what they are really quick. It looks like they were about 500 in June, and that was the month where the balls stopped finding holes.
Mm.
And granted, they played some good teams this month. Played 4 against the Dodgers, 4 against the Astros, of which they lost all 4. 3 against the Brewers, who they took 2, and that was when the Brewers were better, took 2 or 3 from them. The rest of this is like Marlins, Angels, and then they lost 2 or 3 to the Padres, who I guess were okay at that point. I don't even know. I don't remember. This was a mixed bag of opponent, I'll put it that way. And so harder schedule than they're playing now. We'll see. It honestly almost has less to do with who they're playing and more to do is if they're finding the holes.
Yeah.
Having good at bats, because they're not, with the exception of Alonso, even Lindor doesn't do this. With the exception of Pete Alonso, they're not the type of team that can punish you really quickly.
No, not really. I mean, they don't have that kind of lineup. I don't know. I don't even know if what I'm saying makes any sense. I just kind of feel like the Mets will fuck it up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I feel really confident that the Mets will fuck it up.
I think it's going to be somewhat of a repeat of last year. We're going to go into that series just like we went into the series against the Phillies last year, and the division's going to be on the line. Maybe.
I mean, it will probably be within a couple of games, right?
Yeah.
So we'll see. That's going to be a big series, and I like when that happens too, because it gives your fucking guys the opportunity to get into playoff mode right before the playoffs, get tuned up and all that shit. I think that's an important thing. Having off days and extended periods of time between being in that competitive mode mentally, I think fucks people up.
Yeah.
It takes you a game to get back into it, and by then it might be too late, especially in a fucking 5-game series, best of 5, where you can lose 3 games and you're done.
It's going to be interesting, and I'm going to be drunk that entire time if we have to play 3 against the Mets for the division. Let's say we go in down 1, or hopefully up 1.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be fucking brutal. Now that is not the last series of the year.
No, there's Washington after that for them,
and we get the Marlins.
Yeah. So that's as long as we don't run into Alcantara, I'm pretty happy about that.
2 real quick things. One, I forgot to put one of these on the outline, but 2 real quick things. One, Pujols is on absolute fire right now. Does he get to 700? I believe he's at 693. So he needs 7 more over the next month and a half, basically. A month plus 2 weeks of games.
Yeah. I don't know. I doubt it. I mean, I was listening to Buster Olney this morning, and he was talking about how he's been around people when they get close to milestones like this, and it re-energizes them or whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe that's real, but there's also been how long did Maris sit on 59? Right.
Yeah.
So it's I could see it both ways. I don't think that Pujols is affected by the pressure necessarily.
No.
He is a professional hitter. I think he goes up to the plate every single time looking for one pitch, and if he gets it, it's going out. Yeah. Most of the time, and if he doesn't get it, then he's probably going to ground out or strike out. That's what I think. And, if he plays in some meaningless ball games, and look, left-handed relief pitching in the National League especially is not all that great, except for a couple of teams.
Yeah.
So if he's getting into bullpens and, maybe. I think 7 home runs is not that much for a guy like that. He's hit 7 before yesterday. He had hit 7 in his last 10 games.
Yeah. He just started ripping them off.
Yeah. I think the real question is whether or not Aaron Judge is going to hit fucking 62. I think he's going to hit 64 or 5, honestly.
He's still at 48.
He's at 48 now, but he just hit 2 in the last 2 days, and this guy is a bunch, a bundle home run hitter.
Yeah.
When he hits them, he hits a lot in a row. And it usually is like 13, 14 in a month kind of situation. You know what I mean?
He can easily do. I mean, like he's got a month and a half left too, and
Yeah.
he can easily do fucking 13, 14 in that time span. I want to see who they play, who they have coming up here.
I mean, he hit 12, 11, and 13 in May, June, and July. August was kind of a down month for him. He's only got 6 so far, but now 2 of them are in the last 2 games. So, he might get up to 10 this month before the end of the month here in the next 6 days.
I think the next 7 games are going to be pretty big for him. They are against the A's and the Angels.
Is it in New York?
Nope. It's all away.
Angels, that's a good park to hit in. Oakland is not a good park to hit in. But Aaron Judge is not hitting wall scrapers either. This dude's hitting like 450-foot home runs.
Right.
I think the ball he hit, I think his 48th last night was a 453-footer.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, this is a big – I really do think that he's going to break this record. And the interesting thing about that is going to be he's only played 120 games this season.
How many did he miss? He should be right around 120 games, like for the year.
I think he's missed some games. Hang on.
What are the Braves? 78 and 40 something. We're right around 120 games.
Yeah, he's missed 4 games,
okay,
so not much.
That's fine.
So, the question for me isn't whether or not he's going to hit 62. It's whether he's going to do it in 154 games or less.
Okay.
Right? Because I think that's important. I think if he hits 61 in less than 154 games or in 154
right.
games, to me, that's the record holder without an asterisk.
Right, because that's what
Yeah.
Ruth did.
Yep.
So actually, his last 7 games are also really important. These next 7 games, and then I think these last 7 games are even more important. So his last 7 games, he gets 3 against the Orioles in Yankee Stadium, and then 4 on the road against the Rangers.
I mean, even at Toronto, that 3-game series before the Baltimore series,
Yeah.
Toronto's a pretty fun place to hit too.
Yeah.
And then he plays Boston and
Yep.
Pittsburgh at home before that. Like, there's a lot of home runs in these fucking games.
To be had, especially that Pittsburgh. I'm sad it's only 2 games.
Yeah,
to be honest.
they should just have him exclusively play against Pittsburgh. Yeah, but that's exciting. I like seeing stuff like that. It's fun to watch records get broken.
It is. It's fun to watch. I like that there's 2 chases. I like the chase for 700. I like the chase for 62 or 60 or whatever.
Yeah.
And then last but not least, real quick, the Angels for sale.
Mm-hmm.
Please move them to Austin.
Yeah,
Are we bringing that to life somehow?
We've been trying to speak it into existence. I made a vision board. I called Ty Pennington. He told me to stop calling him. How did you get this number? All that stuff. Obviously I had no answer for that. So whatever. But yeah, it would be great to have the Austin Angels. It's alliteration. It already works.
It does.
Right. So that's why they changed the name to Anaheim before, for alliteration purposes. This is a good fucking baseball market too. Like, people love baseball around here.
Oh yeah,
Like, you go to the fucking stupid AAA game up there. I've never seen that place not packed.
Well, and another interesting thing is, so like Texas, they talk about it's football country, and the same with the rest of the South, the SEC, like Florida and Georgia in particular, and it's all football. That's what you hear about. But really, like, as far as professional baseball goes, yes, I think the biggest fans are in the Northeast typically, and then you've got St. Louis, Chicago, and then like Dodgers fans, right? Those are really the like gold standard of fan bases. But in terms of the sport of baseball, it is as much in the blood in the South as it is in any of those places, because these people play it year round. They are obsessed. Like, I think it's, other than football, the sport that they want their kids to play the most, that they get excited about their kids playing the most. I mean, baseball is everywhere here. The 2 sports of people I meet who played here as a kid, played seriously as a kid, it's football and baseball. It's not basketball. It's not fucking soccer or anything like that. Like, this is football and baseball country.
I agree with that. And it's, I mean, just the way this area is developing, the plans for the high-speed rail between, San Antonio and Dallas makes that a lot more feasible, I think.
Yeah.
And it also creates new rivalries in the area, which is always nice.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, for a while, it was Houston in the National League and Texas in the American League, and it wasn't a big deal. Now they're both American League teams. I don't know if it would make sense to bring a third American League team to the same general region.
Yeah.
So they may have to fucking flip-flop somebody, but that's not even the rules are the same now. So I don't know if that's even a thing. Maybe nobody cares about that anymore.
It's not that big a deal. I mean, I guess if you really wanted to, because who gives a shit? Flop the Angels and Diamondbacks?
Yeah.
Right? Like, it doesn't matter.
I look, why not? I mean, there wouldn't be a fucking American League team in the Southwest anymore, right? In like Southern California anymore. There would just be Oakland in Northern California, and then 4 or 3 National League teams, and plus Arizona, which is another one, right?
Right.
So I think for TV market, because that TV market for Arizona pushes all the way up into like fucking Utah and shit. It's like way up there. So I think, maybe you need to split it up a little bit. But the main point is just send us a fucking baseball team, please.
For the love of God.
Yeah, like Los Angeles doesn't deserve 2 baseball teams.
No, they don't even support it. Like, it's in, Orange County is a fine place and everything, but they don't fucking care about the Angels. You see more Dodgers hats out there, even there. It's just that team it's just redundant. So give it to Texas.
What's that kid's name before we get out of here? That shortstop that we fucking traded, the minor league guy. Or no, I'm sorry, Drew Waters actually is the one. Drew Waters got called up, I think.
He did to the Royals, yeah.
Yeah. So has he played any games yet? I haven't really been following him much.
He might have played his first game the other day. Let me check. He is definitely on the major league roster. Let's check this game log. He has not.
He's got two games.
Yep. He's played
6 at bats.
No hits.
1 walk, 1 RBI.
Good for him.
Yeah, I'm glad he's getting to play somewhere because center field is not going to happen for him in Atlanta ever.
Now we're full.
Yeah.
We are fucking full. That is all I got for today.
Yep.
See you guys later.